Hey everybody, Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here, and I want to talk a little bit about the Democratic and Republican strategies for voting or elections. So, the Democratic strategy for the past almost 30 years has been very much the same. Actually, I should say about 20 years. It's been since Bill Clinton. Well, I don't really remember how much it was before Clinton. I was kind of young at that point, but since it came off of multiple Republican presidents, I think the American people really wanted to switch things up. So it wasn't very hard to get people to switch away from George H.W. Bush at that point. However, since then, since Bill Clinton, the Democrats have had the same strategy. And their strategy has been when coming off of their incumbent president and going to a new one, their strategy has been, hey, remember this great guy that we had as president? Here's his vice president, and we're going to try and do the same thing again. But of course, people don't want the same thing over and over again. That's why we choose new presidents every 4 to 8 years. So, in the case of Al Gore versus George W. Bush, they kept trying to prop Al Gore up uh, as the second Bill Clinton. But Al Gore was not very exciting, and he is very much a robot in the way he delivers, in the way he talks, in the way he does everything. He's very mechanical and very monotone, and there's nothing exciting about him. And this is a lockbox, and this is how we're going to keep your money safe. That was essentially one of the first memes during that time. But the point being that that was how they first tried to get him over. And then, as George W. Bush kept doing better and better and better, they kept going, well, Al Gore is not George Bush. Al Gore is not George Bush. And it wasn't anything good. I mean, nobody cared. I believe, and I'm pretty sure Al Gore won the popular vote. However, he totally lost the electoral college. So you lost a lot of the states that swung the vote the other way. And this is where people are like, well, the electoral college should be throwing out the electoral college. And at the time, I was one of those people like, well, the popular vote should matter, even though I wasn't for Bush or Gore. I was like, well, the majority of people voted for Al Gore, therefore he should win. However, the reason why we have an electoral college is so that places with major cities and groupthink don't take over the world. Well, not the world, but the United States. It's so that the minority voice has a voice. Because if the popular vote won everything without electorals, the United States would be very different. And probably not in a good way. Because again, you have these large city groupthings. Well, what works in a large city does not work in suburbia. What works in suburbia does not work in the rural areas. And there's a lot of people in rural and suburban areas. And their voices should matter. I'm not saying the city voices shouldn't matter. I'm just saying that even though you have between 7 and 12 million people in a city, they shouldn't determine how the entire rest of the state goes. They should determine how their city goes, absolutely. But they shouldn't determine how the city goes. And the cities shouldn't determine how the entire United States goes when the entire United States constitutes, 78%? That's a number I'm pulling out of my ass. But say, when you have square mileage, you add up all the metropolitan areas in a square mileage, and I'm going to guess it's not more than 20% of the entire United States. So you have a lot of people who are not in those areas making up the rest of the United States, and they're saying, well, more of us are here. That's fine. But you're not 80% of the United States. And that's a choice that you made. So, but again, this goes back to throughout the past 20 plus years, the Democratic strategy has been mostly our presidential candidate is not the Republican presidential candidate, which is not a way to get people into electing a president. And in 2004, that happened even more when John Kerry went against George W. Bush. Now, for the most part, people are more inclined to re-elect an incumbent president. It's just the way it is, or not even a president, an incumbent official. The president just happens to be the most visual person, and they tend to get the most criticism. But I mean, if you look at pretty much every other office, most people have no idea what happened within those offices, and they just go, well, my life is pretty okay for the most part, so I'm not going to blame the person that's still sitting in that seat, and they just choose them on the ballot. But John Kerry, again, not very exciting. He kind of had I think the reason the Democrats chose him was he kind of had a Kennedy type of feel to him, but he's not a Kennedy. And aside from John and Jack, the Kennedys have had a major political succession, but they haven't done well in the presidential areas. And so John Kerry coming up to do it, and people are like, a lot of Democrats didn't really care for him either. And John Kerry just helped him. He helped George W. Bush. So in 2008, it went differently, though, because, of course, brand new president. George W. Bush has to leave. So both the Republicans and the Democrats have to choose someone new. And one of the things that they did, Barack Obama was a very good speaker. Now, John McCain had a lot of political affiliation, and he was a wartime hero and all that other stuff. So he had a lot going for him. However, the Republicans were so inclined to nominate a female with him because they wanted the first female vice president. So they put a female with him, and Sarah Palin, when she was on her talking points, was good, but when she was allowed to speak on her own, people went, I don't think so. And even John McCain kind of got into it too. And that was, again, when they started their whole, the maverick, the guy who goes against the Republicans, he's a maverick. And it became became such a meme that you're just going, no, I don't care. I don't care. So that turned a lot of people off of him. And what it did is it really motivated the Democratic voters. The Democratic voters tend to hold steady, tend to waver quite a bit, actually. Anywhere from as low as like 35 million up to, for Barack Obama, he had just under 70 million votes for him. Now, where Republicans tend to be very staunch, they tend to come out in their numbers every single time and vote Republican every single time, and it's right around 55 to 60 million. So the whole thing is you're almost never going to sway a Republican voter, but you can sway people to vote for Democrat, because a lot of people who vote Democrat just tend not to vote, and a lot of that will be on the Democratic Party on how they do that. So, fast forward to 2012, and again, Barack Obama versus Mitt Romney. Again, Mitt Romney, who cares? Mitt Romney. And another Massachusetts guy. And he had Paul Ryan with him. Now, Paul Ryan was kind of an exciting choice at that time, but Mitt Romney is not exciting at all. So, again, Republicans vote right around, just under 61 million. But the Democrat votes fell 5 million for Barack Obama because he's going to get in. And then in 2016, nobody expected Trump to get to the presidential nomination. Nobody expected it. And I think even in the primaries, so many people didn't expect it that's why they chose him. They're just like, I don't really care for all these other idiots. And Trump's never going to get in, so I'll throw Trump's name on the ballot. Whatever, who cares? He's never going to get it. And then, of course, he got it. Now, obviously, you have some people who voted for Trump because they really wanted someone who just stuck it to everybody. And Trump believes what he says every single time. People say he's a pathological liar. I don't think he's a pathological liar. I believe he means what he says at the moment he says it. And then, of course, in 2016, the Democrats tried so hard to have the first woman president. Now, if they had elected Bernie Sanders would have absolutely 100% destroyed Trump in the polls. But they didn't. people didn't want Hillary Clinton. It didn't work. It didn't work in 2000 with Al Gore. It wasn't going to work in 2016 with Hillary. Had they now, oddly enough, had they tried Hillary in 2000, I think they could have won. Because at the time, everybody believed Hillary ran the White House anyway. So I think if they had put Hillary in, they had a pretty good chance. Hillary versus George W. Bush. That would have been an actual interesting battle at that time. But again, so 2016, you got Hillary, and at first they're going, we're going to have the first woman president. We're going to have the first woman president. We're going to have the first woman president. And nobody wanted Hillary. And the Democrats just stopped. They stopped voting. They didn't want it. They didn't really want her in. And again, had they put Bernie in, but they didn't, and they ruined themselves. And granted, yes, Hillary won the popular vote. But again, Electoral College, and of course you got everybody chanting out there, well, the Electoral College has outlived its usefulness. Clearly not. Clearly not. Because again, much of the United States is not metropolitan areas. So now we fast forward to today. And what do we got going on again? Biden versus Trump. Biden has a lot of bad history. He has a lot of things he's done that Democrats do not like. But of course, he was Barack Obama's vice president. Now, if they really thought Biden was a good candidate, he would have been on there 4 years ago. But they don't think he's a good candidate. Now they're trying to say, hey, you remember Biden? He Uncle Joe, good old Uncle Joe. And that's how they started this whole thing. Good old Uncle Joe. And that's why they wouldn't let him debate anything. They wanted to get all their ducks in a row. They wanted to see how the Democratic field shook out, get rid of a bunch of people, and then they're going to throw all the money at Biden. And I have no doubt that they paid off a bunch of people again. And there's Bernie shilling out again, second time. And again, Bernie probably had a pretty good chance of winning this fight again. And there's a lot of people who wanted Beto O'Rourke and Pete Buttigieg and a few for Kamala Harris. But again, now it seems like they're going to try and backdoor Kamala Harris into this. And if they do that, the Democrats should absolutely 100% rise up against the DNC, because they should not be able to backdoor someone they want in on the coat heels of someone they don't really want in there, but they think he has the best chance of winning. And I don't believe in Biden. I don't believe in Trump either, but I definitely don't believe Biden is the best choice. Everything he says, you're just sitting there going, really? And you've got just celebrities shilling out going, oh my God, he's amazing. Listen to him. Like, of course, listen to him. He's got the freaking best people writing his speeches, answering the questions. You got the questions already asked, so you answer the best way possible and everything else. And, but again, now it's back to Biden is not Trump. That's what they're banking on. All the middle people. Biden's not Trump. Hey, Biden. Hey, everybody. You know how bad Trump is, right? Trump's really bad. Trump's bad. Trump knew everything. He knew how bad this was going to be. He's responsible for all this. Biden's not Trump. Biden's not Trump. Biden would never do any of this. Biden's not the best person for the job. I don't know that Kamala Harris is better, worse, any of that stuff, but definitely not Biden. But I don't think Kamala Harris should be backdoored into it. And it's a massive disservice to her saying that, well, you couldn't get in through the front door, so we're going to tie you to this guy, get him in, and then the second he's in there, we're going to kick him out and put you in. And I would never want that for me. I would never want that for anything I've done that, I didn't earn it. Hey, we didn't hire you because you weren't good enough, but we're going to bring you in under this person in a different position. And then the second they're in, we're going to say, hey, this person's gone and you're taking over for them. I'm like, why? Well, you didn't think I was good enough before. Why am I suddenly good enough now? What have I done? I tried on my own. It didn't work. I tried with your help even a little bit and that didn't work. But now you want to attach me to somebody. And that's how I'm going to be in this powerful position. If I didn't earn it, I didn't earn it. I don't want it given to me. But I'm not Kamala Harris. But anyway, yeah, that is the Democratic strategy. Is we're not the other guy. We're not the Republican. When all else fails, hey, we're not the Republican. The Republican guy is bad. And it's just sickening. We should not put up with this. And unfortunately, both parties, keep it so that it's just those two, because then it's always those two in charge. And it doesn't matter how divisive we get, it's always the left and the right. Well, guess what? Left hand, right hand, doesn't matter. Same fucking person holding both hands. I apologize for screaming there. But still, okay, so it's the left hand and the right hand. Well, it's the same person with both hands. So it's still the same thing controlling everything. It doesn't change. And we put up with this crap. And this is why I have never, ever, ever, ever voted first party, either of them, during a presidential election. I try to vote third party as much as I can. But no, I also do not believe in the Libertarian Party on this one, because most libertarians don't believe in Joe Jorgensen, not Joe Biden. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the vid. If you do, give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, comment. Help me out, please. You guys have been fantastic. You guys have been great. You've given me more subscribers, given me more watch time, and the more you can do that, the more I will make better videos. Anyways, I'll talk to you later.